The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
On a Sabbath, Jesus went to dine at the home of one of the leading Pharisees. And the people there were observing him closely. He told a parable to those who had been invited, noticing how they were choosing the places of honor at the table. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not recline at table in the place of honor. Blessed indeed will you be because of their inability to repay you. For you will be repaid at the resurrection of holiness. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Gets invited out to dinner to one of the leading Pharisees. So there's name recognition, even though Luke doesn't give us the name of this leading Pharisee. You know, he probably lives in a pretty good size 6-bedroom, 4-garage house up on the hill off of Jerusalem. And everybody knows that Jesus got invited. And the guests who also were invited, what are they doing? They are observing Jesus closely. What's he going to do? What's he going to say? Isn't he a revolutionary preacher who just really hangs out with the poor? What's he doing with the wealthy, the leading Pharisee, and all the other guests? This past week, I got invited to dinner to a family that I've known for 24 years, the O'Rourke's. And they raised 5 children. Patrick, the oldest, Casey, Mary Grace, I have to come back to her, Joseph, and Tim. And when I arrived, it was the parents, Casey and Rose, but their second son, Casey, was there with his girlfriend and bride-to-be, Anne. And Anne brought her brother Jim, and Mary Grace was there. So it was a very lively exchange. And at one point, Rose, the mother, said, "Mary Grace, tell Father what you learned at a private all-girls Catholic school, what the 4th commandment was." And without hesitating, Mary Grace said that parents should cherish their children. So everybody paused on that and said, wait a second, that's not even in a midrash. A midrash is like a little marginal comment that the scribe would put down there. I said, how did it go from honor your mother and your father, I see Karen's face is perplexed, to Mary, and Mary Grace was she bought into that teaching. Parents have to be very kind and very good to their children if they want their children to respect them and honor them. Well, you can imagine where that conversation went. And then many other issues came up in the conversation. about Pope Francis. Is he soft on homosexuality? About living together before you're married. And they talked about premarital sex, and I said there's no such thing as premarital sex. There's only non-marital intimacy and marital intimacy. That's it, of a genital nature. So it was a very lively discussion, but I could tell that the 27-year-old, the 29-year-old, the two 28-year-olds were observing me carefully. They wanted to see where I stood on these issues. And not only where I stood, but what was my tone? Was I belligerent, arrogant, so definitive that no conversation could or no exchange could occur? Or was there a certain openness and receptivity that would allow for people to think again on a particular life issue that they've already made a firm decision about, and that the decision is not rooted in the gospel? What does Jesus do when he watched everybody, observing him? He did what he does frequently. He tells a parable. If you're invited, don't think you're some highfalutin guest and take a place of honor. Go and take the lowest place. What is he saying? Be a person of humility. What does that mean? Who can tell me what the word humble means? Mark? From the Greek, I mean from the Latin humus that you learned in 8th grade. I know that was 2 years ago. I don't want to put you on the spot. Humble. Earth. Humus. It means you have both feet on the ground. You are connected to the earth from which you are made. A humble person can accept compliments graciously and not think that they're superior to people. A humble person can also accept criticism courageously and not say, who does he think he is telling me this? Or feeling like, how can this person instruct or admonish me, or yell at me, or rebuke me? But St. Paul says that that's what we're supposed to do as a Christian community. We are to instruct one another and even admonish one another if we are wrong-headed in our thoughts. How many here would say that they have a well-trained, well-tamed mind? Raise your hand or stand up. I think this is worthy of standing up. You have a well-trained and well-tamed mind. You don't get distracted. You don't get preoccupied. You're not scatterbrained all over the place. And you definitely don't have the disease of chatter. Do you know what that is, where your mind is always chattering something into your head? It's just a non-stop chatter. But Jesus doesn't want that. He wants us to have peace of mind. Mindfulness. Why? So that we can be alert and attentive and observant. but what is going on inside us. Be alert to these obsessive thoughts, or these demons of doubt, or whatever it is that gets you. And what do we generally do when we have doubts or fears or anxiety or restlessness? We try to fight it. Big mistake. We have to learn to be counterintuitive. Say we struggle with lust. Now, I know nobody here struggles with that vice, but say you are bombarded by lustful thoughts in this seductive culture of ours. And you say, oh, I can't allow these thoughts to keep going over in my mind. Guess what? You've lost the battle right there. You have to say, lust. Yeah, you haven't been around for the last 3 days. I thought you abandoned me. Or say we have a battle with jealousy. Well, we don't get all uptight and say, oh, I can't. Envy does unbelievable damage. It hurts us more than it hurts the people that we're envious of. And then if we don't deal with envy in a healthy, wholesome way, we might start plotting to hurt the person that is causing our envy. Come on up, Bridget. Come on up, Andrew. Come on up, Joe, real quick. Let us shift gears here. What does Jesus say? When you have a banquet, who are you to invite? The wealthy? No. Like people who are last. Counterintuitive. If you choose to be last, you will be first. People who are least, the least become the greatest in the kingdom of God. People who are lost, you will be found in divine love. Humility. I want everybody to become, good, Anthony, a full-fledged member of the 4-H club. Humility, both feet on the ground, we've gone through that, gives way to hilarity. You take yourself lightheartedly, not so seriously that, the world's going to collapse if you don't get that agenda item done before 4:01. And hilarity gives way to hospitality. And I don't mean to even go on that one, because we all know how much hostility exists in our world. International hostility. Look at Syria. I mean, look at all over the world. Look at our own homes, the hostility that is harbored there. Hostility hurts all the time. Hospitality heals. It welcomes. It makes you be yourself. No pretense. No getting up on the table and doing a soft shoe to try to impress people. It's just, these are the stepping stones to holiness. How many here hunger and thirst for holiness? Blessed is that person who hungers and thirsts for holiness according to the genius of Jesus, because your life will be satisfied. Your life will be complete. Your life will not be full of neediness and restlessness and boredom and loneliness that is painful and hurtful. But we need faith to believe it, so we gather together and support one another in a faith-filled way. How about if we give a big